unfold. All right, we're about to dive into a story that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's not. This is the true story of a digital ghost, a weapon made of nothing but code that managed to leap out of the computer and cause real physical destruction.
So I want you to picture this. It's 2009. You're an engineer deep inside Iran's most secret, most secure nuclear facility, Natanz. You're looking at your control panels, and all you see is a sea of green lights. The system is practically screaming at you. Everything is fine. Everything is perfect.
But here's the thing. What the engineers were seeing was the complete opposite of what they were hearing. Because over the normal hum of the facility, there was this other sound, a high-pitched metallic shriek. It was the sound of their most precious equipment, the uranium enrichment centrifuges, literally tearing themselves to pieces.
So this was the scene, right? In the control room, total calm. On the factory floor, utter chaos. Thousands of these incredibly precise, incredibly expensive machines were failing, one after another, in this bizarre, unstoppable epidemic. You can imagine the panic. The engineers were scrambling, trying to figure it out. Was it a bad batch of aluminum? Were there spikes in the power supply? They even fired some operators, thinking it was human error. They brought in brand new machines, installed them, and then watched in horror as those new ones disintegrated too. It never ever crossed their minds that the saboteur wasn't a person at all, but a ghost, a piece of code living inside their own systems. So, where did the first crack in this case come from? You'd think a spy agency, right? The CIA? Mossad? Nope. The first clue came from a small antivirus company in Belarus, all because of a very strange phone call from Tehran.
An IT guy in Iran was freaking out. His clients' computers were just crashing over and over again, stuck in this endless reboot cycle. And what looked like your average, everyday software glitch was actually the first thread that, when pulled, would unravel the single most sophisticated cyberweapon the world had ever seen.
The security analyst who got the case, a guy named Sergey Ulasen, he saw the malware was spreading through USB drives. Okay, common enough. But the way it did it, this was something else. You didn't have to click on a file, you didn't have to run a program. The second you just looked at the contents of the USB drive, you were infected. That just wasn't supposed to be possible.
What he'd found was the holy grail of hacking, a zero-day exploit. Think of it like a secret skeleton key for a piece of software. It's a flaw that nobody knows exists, not even the company that made it, like Microsoft, so there are literally 0 days of protection against it. It is the apex predator of the digital world, and finding just one is incredibly rare.
Okay, so once the word gets out, the big guns get involved. The world's top security firms, places like Symantec, they get their hands on the code. They put this thing under a digital microscope, and what they found was just mind-blowing. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before.
You know, your average computer virus is a small, kind of messy bit of code designed to steal credit cards or send spam. This thing, Stuxnet, was a 500 kilobyte monster. It was huge. It was a complex, modular, military-grade software platform. As one researcher famously put it, it was like going to a museum of paper airplanes and finding a fully functional fighter jet sitting in the middle of the room.
And it just kept getting crazier. Remember that super rare, super expensive zero-day exploit? Well, Stuxnet wasn't using one of them. It was using 4 at the same time. Think about that. One to break in through the USB drive, another one to spread itself across a local network, and 2 more just to give itself total, godlike control over any machine it touched. This was just unbelievable extravagant.
I mean, just to give you an idea of how insane that is, a single one of these zero-day exploits could sell for $500,000 or more on the black market. Using 4 of them in one weapon, it meant the creators had a blank check. They had resources that were basically unlimited and a mission that was way, way more important than money.
But here's maybe the weirdest part of all. For over 99% of the computers it infected, this superweapon did absolutely nothing. It was a digital sniper. It quietly infected hundreds of thousands of computers all around the world and just went to sleep. It was waiting, looking for one very specific thing. A computer that was running industrial control software made by a German company called Siemens.
So, once this digital sniper found its prey inside the Natanz facility, it was time to wake up. And its mission was just brilliant. It was a 2-part attack designed not just to destroy, but to do it completely invisibly, like the perfect crime. Here's how it worked, and it is diabolically clever. First, Stuxnet would secretly command the centrifuges to spin way too fast, pushing them way past their safety limits. This created tiny, invisible fractures in the metal. Then it would slam on the brakes, dropping the speed to almost nothing. The machines would vibrate so violently that they just shatter. And the final touch? It would go dormant for almost a month, making the destruction look totally random, like a simple mechanical failure.
But wait, you're probably asking how on earth did nobody in the control room see this happening on their screens? Well, this is the final, most brilliant piece of the whole puzzle. Before it launched the attack, Stuxnet recorded 21 seconds of normal, boring system data. And then, while it was causing all this chaos, it just played that recording back to the engineers on a loop. So while their machines were literally screaming and tearing themselves apart, all the engineers saw were green lights and perfect numbers.
So you have to step back and ask, who? Who on earth could build something this sophisticated? A weapon with 4 0 days, with stolen digital security certificates from real companies, and with intimate, insider knowledge of a top-secret Iranian nuclear facility. All signs pointed to one thing, a nation-state.
And sure enough, a few years later, in 2012, the truth came out. Reporting confirmed that Stuxnet was a top-secret joint American-Israeli cyber operation. The codename was Operation Olympic Games. And the goal was simple: derail Iran's nuclear program without firing a single shot, to buy more time for diplomacy and stop a potential conventional war from breaking out in the Middle East.
Now, there was one huge problem. A place like Natanz is air-gapped. That means it's not connected to the internet at all. So you can't just hack in from the outside. The weapon had to be physically carried inside, and later investigations suggest that this was done by a Dutch engineer who was allegedly recruited as a mole. He just walked into the plant and plugged in an infected USB drive.
And from a purely tactical standpoint, it worked. The operation was a success. It destroyed about 1,000 centrifuges, setting the Iranian program back by months, maybe years. But there was one tiny, catastrophic mistake. Stuxnet was never, ever supposed to leave Natanz.
Somehow, probably on an engineer's laptop that got connected to the internet outside the plant, the worm got out. It escaped into the wild. And for its creators, this was an absolute disaster. Because now, their ultimate digital weapon, their blueprint for cyber-physical warfare, was out there for anyone to find, to reverse engineer, and to copy.
And that's where the story gets really dark. Because once the blueprint was out there, people started copying it. These are what we call the sons of Stuxnet. We saw a piece of malware called Industroyer that was used to shut down the power grid in Ukraine. And then came Triton, a terrifying virus found in a Saudi petrochemical plant that was designed to do one thing: disable the safety systems to cause a deadly explosion. It was malware designed to kill people.
The security researcher who did a lot of the work to crack Stuxnet, a guy named Ralph Langner, he put it perfectly. He said, the idea of a cyber weapon is now out of the bottle. Stuxnet proved beyond any doubt that a few lines of computer code could cross the digital divide and cause real-world, kinetic destruction.
And that's really the world we live in now. That line between the digital world and the physical world, it's gone. That digital ghost that haunted Natanz is now everywhere. It showed us all that the battlefield is no longer just over there. It's right here, in our power grids, our water systems, our factories. It's all around us.